Betsy DeVos for Education Secretary. In my mind, she is the least qualified nominee in a historically unqualified cabinet.
She is someone who has dedicated her career and her inherited fortune to privatizing public schools, to tearing down public education.
No matter her secrecy, no matter her blowing off basic anti-corruption practices, they will ram this nomination down the throats of the American people sideways.
Democrats were up all night on the Senate floor speaking about the opposition to Betsy DeVos to be the education secretary. Thousands upon thousands of phone calls have poured into Capitol Hill from people all across the country not wanting her to be confirmed as Secretary of Education. Now, the United States Senate is split 52-48. Republicans have 52 seats. Democrats have 48 seats. 2 Republicans have already said they're not going to vote for her. The opposition, they're trying to get 1 more Republican to vote against Betsy DeVos as Secretary of Education. If it ends in a tie, 50-50, Vice President Mike Pence will cast the deciding vote that will confirm her as the next Secretary of Education. Let's go to our panel to discuss this. I'll start with you, Tiffany. This is an example of, I mean, out of all his nominees, this is the most heat they're placing on any nominee.
No, absolutely, Roland. I talked to my cousins in New Orleans who don't even pay attention to politics, and they were like, yo, this woman who's about to be appointed for Department of Education, she does not look qualified. And I was like, yeah, she doesn't look qualified because she isn't qualified. Good job. And if they're not paying attention to anything else, like you said, Roland, this is the one where the picture has been painted the most clearly. And it is unfortunate that even despite all of that, her track record, her lack of experience, her video being called out and bashed by Senator Warren, et cetera, she still might today get approved, or tomorrow. I think they've delayed the vote now for 2 days. She still might get approved, and it's hurtful to see commercials that come up by President Donald Trump that say, "Okay, we want to vote for the winning team." She is not a winner. She's not a winning team, and she's not for public education. She doesn't have any experience dealing with public education system, nor have her kids, and she's benefited from private corporations and from private money. And so, if she does get elected, it's going to say appointed. It's going to say a lot of things about our democracy system, but it's also going to say a lot about what happens to higher education in the future, and it won't be good. And teachers and students across this country are going to have to fight for a lot while she's in office.
Gianno, I'm a school choice supporter. She supports school choice. She supports vouchers. But the issue here goes beyond school choice. She could not even answer the question as to whether or not she would enforce Title IX. She then said, when asked about a federal law that deals with education for students who are disabled, she said, leave it up to the states. It's a federal law. The fundamental problem I have here is that to be Secretary of Education, first of all, charter schools only represent 3% of all kids in public schools. And so to have a nominee whose focus is only that, as opposed to the vast array of responsibilities of a Secretary of Education, that's a whole different beast. And this is why folks have a fundamental problem with her being Education Secretary.
I can see there be some considerations in which people have in deciding to support her, but now we see what's going on in the Senate, and I think this is where the debates actually occur. We're seeing that when it comes to Democrats and Republicans, with you noting 2 Republicans not supporting her. My issue isn't about her saying, oh, am I going to enforce this law or that law per se. It's about, do you have an agenda that's going to be beneficial and equitable in education across the board for all students? As you said, you're a proponent of charter schools, so am I, and I believe that she is a qualified candidate, although some do disagree.
A lot of people disagree.
Hold up. I just asked you the question. I just stated in the hearing, Gianno.
Yes.
She said, when asked about a federal law that dealt with students with disabilities, she said, leave it up to the states. It's a federal law. If you don't understand the basics of a federal law, how in the world can you be Education Secretary?
Well, if we're going to Sure, certainly, yeah.
Well, Donald Trump is in office.
No, I'm not going to say that. No, that's not what I'm saying. Sure.
Avis, go ahead. Avis, go ahead.
Well, you know, it's a lot clearly that she doesn't understand. Her entire confirmation was like an extended comedy routine if it wasn't so tragic.
Come on.
Yes, it was. What's really sad also, but this is very serious, is that she's also saying that one of the things that she does want to do is to significantly weaken the Office of Civil Rights within the Department of Education, which we know is absolutely critical in terms of making sure that students of color and that girls receive the adequate attention and are not disproportionately impacted negatively in the public school experience. She's never been in a public school classroom. She's never taught. She's never been an administrator. In fact, I would argue that the reason why she's there is because of her billionaire status and having donated to probably every Republican that's in the Senate in which will be voting on her. So no, she's not qualified and she doesn't need to be in that position.
Kickstart your day at 7 and get the news you need from the perspective you want. NewsOne Now with Roland Martin, every weekday morning at 7 on TV1.